All right, so there's always a lot of chatter on the internet, on blogs, on social media, what have you, about technique. And everybody seems to have a very white and black opinion. Many people, not everybody. Many people seem to have a very white and black opinion on what a squat should look like for everyone, what a deadlift or bench or a strict press should look like for everyone. Pick a movement, it doesn't matter. And I think when we have these ideas of everyone has to move in a very specific way, we eliminate the need for nuance. We ignore the fact that everybody's body and body geometry, biomechanics are different, and everybody is training for something different, or they have a different goal in mind. So we totally eliminate these variables that are always in flux with the individual when we say you have to move like this. So what I think is helpful is to understand that technique lives on a spectrum. And we need to understand the athlete in front of us when we apply these notions of technique, given any movement. So take a person who is new to the gym and they're really just invested in becoming healthier. They do need to understand the central components of a pattern. Again, squat, deadlift, press, whatever. They need to be safe with the movement. But do they need to have the same technique as someone who is training for a competition? They need to have the basics down, of course, to complete the task. But they don't need to have certain degrees of motion at certain joints to accomplish the movement, because they're really there for their health. They're not there for competition. So that's one end of the spectrum. Coming forward, once that person has kind of developed a habit of movement and is more familiar with patterns and they're really looking to build muscle volume, then technique definitely becomes more important, because how we move dictates how our muscles are lengthened and loaded. So it does matter a little bit more what positions we get ourselves into given a certain movement. And so at that point, technique definitely takes on a higher level of importance. Further still, if we're looking to develop true strength, technique becomes even more important, because muscles have this beautiful quality of a length-tension relationship. They develop tension best in certain ranges of motion. And all of these movements that we see and do in the gym, squat, deadlift, bench press, strict press, they're predicated on certain joint angles, and those certain joint angles put muscles in certain positions. And with muscles in certain positions, we are more able to develop strength. To get to those certain positions, we definitely need to have a pretty darn clean technique. Moving beyond that, once that person has developed health habits, built muscle, and is gaining true strength, some people enter into the farther end of the spectrum of competition. That is where we can be really maniacal or really authoritarian on our technique, and where that really holds value, because you need to know if you've actually completed a lift. Everyone has to abide by the same standard, whether it's a bench press or a squat or a deadlift or a strict press, what have you. Otherwise, what's the point of competing if the results are not standardized? So that individual needs to have the muscle volume and the strength and the cleanest technique possible to be able to compete. We cannot apply the same expectation of technique for someone who is in competition to the person who is really just in it for health. Maybe they can achieve the same technique, but we shouldn't immediately expect that of that person. or of this person who is really just starting to build muscle a little bit. We can bring them along, we can brush things up and clean things up, but we can't expect them to behave as this person is able to behave, simply because they have more reps, they have way more training, and it's a totally different context in competition than simply getting healthier, gaining muscle, or gaining strength. So we can apply technique in a lot of different ways, and we should have different expectations based on the athlete who is in front of us.